Hello and welcome to GAB with ALisa, Profiles on Metrocast Channel 10. This show is about talking to people from our community who have done amazing and interesting things with their life. Okay, we're going to back up just a little bit. Do you remember being a little kid and having a dream? Okay, my dream was that I wanted to be a famous singer. So I had a hairbrush and I had a mirror, and I had no sense of tone, but that was my dream. Well, imagine a little boy in the community with a dream to talk about racing, to be on the radio, to be an announcer. Picture it. He's got all his little cars lined out in front of him. He goes to the racers. They've all got names. And ladies and gentlemen, yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Buddy Long is going to be our guest on GAB with ALisa Profiles today. We're going to talk about having a dream, living the dream, and sharing that passion with other people. Coming up in just a moment on GAB with ALisa Profiles.
Life is a journey. Every day is a chance to do more, and be better. Hi, I'm Dawn Campbell. Join me on this journey to be your best, whether you're working in a cubicle, managing a full house, or entering a new chapter of life. If you feel good, you look good, inside and out. Join me each week for Be Your Best on Metrocast Channel 10. We can do it together. Be Your Best is brought to you by Burris's Old Town Insurance, an independent agent representing Erie Insurance Group.
Why smart people buy their used cars from Jack Fitzgerald. Reason number 1.
The most important reason to buy a car from us is our 138-point inspection report. We check the car out thoroughly, and we put a copy of that report in your glove compartment so that you know as much about that car as we do before you buy it.
Shop our entire used car inventory at fitzmall.com.
And that's the Fitz way. There's just no better way to go.
Welcome back to GAB with ALisa Profiles. Our profile guest today is Buddy Long. So good to have you on Channel 10.
It is great to be here.
You know, we have run in the same broadcast and communication circles in Southern Maryland since 1996. Oh my God, we're getting old. But you have really gone on to chase your dream. And I guess if this was a newspaper, the headline would say, "Local boy done good." So let's talk a little bit about you, about your dream that you have had ever since you were little and how it's going. You are a race announcer. You work for MRN, Motor Racing Network. You cover NASCAR races. You've done things all across the globe. So let's just start with you. First of all, how did you have this initial dream?
Well, it did start as a little boy, but the little boy got big. He got bigger.
And old.
He got older. But no, you know, I credit my dad. One night we just went to the local dirt track here in St. Mary's, which is Potomac Speedway, about 1979, which I can't even fathom that year anymore in my mind. And I immediately fell in love with watching racing.
Okay.
The funny part of that is, as each week progressed, we couldn't always go to the racetrack. Mom and Dad had other social plans, possibly. So I had friends from school whose parents went to the track, as well as the kids. And that lasted all of maybe 2 weeks, because every time I went to the track, I wanted to sit in the stands and watch. The kids, being kids, as they should be, ripping and running, playing under the grandstands. Well, one of my friends was mad because I wouldn't go down and play with them, because I was sitting in the stands watching the races. So thus I had to find other ways to get to the track some nights, but it just enveloped you. You know, you find something in life that you enjoy so much, and it just enveloped me. And one thing led to another, and a few years later, I found myself up in the booth announcing races. Ironically, I was writing articles for the racetrack, for one of the past promoters, and a local radio DJ from one of the stations you and I used to work at was the track announcer. He couldn't make it one Sunday. We got the call. I was 15 years old, so nervous as could be. Went up and made my debut as an announcer, and about 2 weeks later, the other guy was gone. I was put in there, and thus the career started.
At the age of 15?
At the age of 15. So I still needed rides to get to the racetrack to announce the races, but it was a dream come true, really.
Oh my gosh. And you're so humble when you talk about it, because, you know, one thing led to another and thus and such and what have you. But truthfully, there were a lot of opportunities that you were able to take advantage of like this, but also a lot of hard work.
One thing always leads to another. You always run into, no matter what you're doing, you'll run into different people. And that's what led me to the Motor Racing Network. And I've been very blessed to work with the elite announcers in the country. There's about 20 of us that work on national radio. When you're talking Eli Gold, Eli is an icon. He is the voice of Alabama football. He does NFL football broadcast on Fox Radio. He obviously does NASCAR. And Glenn Jarrett, Joe Moore, and Jeff Striegel are our main announcers right now. But when I sit down some evenings when we're on the road and we're having dinner, and I just look across the table, I mean, we're friends talking like you and I are talking right now, but then you step back and you realize who you're sitting across from. It's like, oh my gosh.
Do you feel like you're 15 years old again inside?
I do. And again, you mentioned the word humbling. I've been humble the entire time. And I've continued to be that way no matter what step I've taken in my career. And it never ceases to stop humbling me when it's time for me to go on the air for the first time again for a race. It just... You're shaking. You're still shaking.
Oh, that's amazing, and you've been doing it for such a long time. I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of people think that after you've done something this big and this with this big of an audience, that after a point it might get, old hat or blasé, and you just start doing it. But it's interesting to hear that you still get those butterflies. Let's back up a little bit and talk about some more of your career in the past, because not only did you announce races, but you also have worked in local radio. And one thing that you mentioned was opportunities. Opportunities will come your way. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, for many years, I worked in the construction industry. That's how I started. And actually, Pete Cameron, who's the gentleman that still has ties to Potomac, I worked for his construction company for a while. But one thing led to another. Back in '85, I wanted to finally embrace my broadcast endeavors.
Okay.
I had been doing race announcing for a long time, went to a broadcasting school, worked at a couple of small market radio stations in Delaware, and actually the old WKIK in Leonardtown, selling AM radio ads, advertising an AM radio, which was almost impossible. And you want to talk about one of the high moments in my life? Remember Rustler Restaurant?
Yeah.
Down in the park, it was in the square. They always were a print advertiser in the Enterprise because they had coupons.
Okay.
I was able to get them to advertise on the air, and that was my claim to fame back in the late 80s, that I was able to get Rustler on the air.
Okay, I need to stop you there, because I absolutely get what you're saying, because I've been in that field as well. We need to explain, when you are trying to sell any kind of advertising, first of all, it's hard because it's mostly a philosophy. So it's one of the more difficult jobs that you can choose. But when you're selling AM radio and you go into a client that's only ever used print, and back in those days, print, for those of you that may not be aware, was king as far as advertising revenue. So high five, because I'm still impressed with that. Okay, well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I want to continue to reminisce, but I also want to talk about some of the highlights of your career as it is today. You've talked to some pretty well-known people. You've got some wonderful stories to share. So we're going to do that. Such a humble, fun guy to talk to. I love it. I'm so glad we're back together. We'll talk to Buddy Long some more here in just a moment. GAB with ALisa Profiles. We'll be back. You're watching Metrocast Channel 10.
In financing, our focus is on saving you money and getting you the best terms. And our customers will tell you that.
I had a bad experience someplace else. All she wanted me to do the minute I walked in wasn't look at cars, was fill out a credit app. So when I came here, they were all about me, not about closing a deal. I feel so compelled to tell everybody that buying a car as a single woman, it can be really fun. My name is Cheryl, and I am an ecstatic Fitzgerald customer.
You're watching GAB with ALisa, Profiles on Metrocast Channel 10. Thanks so much for joining us. You know, every time I do one of these shows and I interview somebody, I love it. I love, love, love talking to people who love what they do. But there is a very fun and special connection with talking to somebody that I have known for so many years, and we run in such similar but different circles. Because ask me what I know about NASCAR, and it's about... I was in Charlotte. Was that where I was this summer?
Yes.
I was in Charlotte this summer, and I got to see the Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's the beginning, middle, and end of my knowledge. But as far as NASCAR goes. My point of saying that is I just love reconnecting with you and telling all of the old stories, and hopefully we're communicating that with you as well. We were just talking about some of the days in past, your history working in broadcast radio. You left radio several years ago, went to work for MRN, and as you mentioned earlier, you've been in a track of broadcasting that there are only a few opportunities, roughly 20 elite broadcasters, and you're one of them. And with that has brought some really big opportunities to talk to people in racing, in NASCAR, but also outside of that. And one of the stories you talked about was getting to interview Gary Sinise, who I love. That is a great story.
It is. And actually, you know, when you're interviewing somebody like that, you know he's in town. He was the Grand Marshal for the Daytona. Well, actually, it was the Coke Zero 400 weekend at Daytona. And you know he's done a variety of interviews already with print media, with so many people. So it was a hospitality that we did at the racetrack for fans in a certain club at the racetrack. And you're trying to come from a different angle. And everybody knows him as Lieutenant Dan
from
on Forrest Gump.
Right.
Well, one of my favorite movies is Apollo 13. And it coincided because we were at Daytona, because when a space shuttle or whatever this day and age takes off from Kennedy, you can hear it. You can hear the noise that far down in Titusville, Florida, which is it's less than an hour going down I-95 from Daytona. Something was taking off that particular weekend, so I tied that in to the Apollo 13, and I told him, I said, you know, every time they come back, you know, you guys are coming, well, he's obviously on the ground, he's not in the ship, but when they're coming back into our orbit, you know, my eyes are tearing up. It's like, will they make it, you know? Yeah, I said there was not one movie I can think of other than that always has me on the edge of my seat and has tears coming out of my eyes. I said, you did a phenomenal job in that movie, but we talked about a variety of other things that kind of took him away, hopefully, from the standard questions that he gets, because that's always what I want to do, is make him feel like, wow, no, nobody's ever asked me that before, and that's always key. But again, I'm sitting there, like I'm sitting beside you, saying, I've got Gary Sinise talking to me right now. This is incredible. Okay, nobody's going to forgive me if I don't ask, what was he like? He's very small. Skinny, you know, obviously camera adds 10 pounds. For me, it adds 50. Hopefully it looks like it adds 50 and it's less than what it is. But no, very small guy. Actually, when I go to shake his hand, you know, people say, buddy, you got a very firm grip. Well, when you shook his hand, it was like a tiny kid's hand. Really? So it's almost like I felt it. It's like, okay, I'm not going to do a firm grip. Right. I'm just going to do real easy. But you know, Gary's just one person. That same weekend, the Thunderbirds, much like the Blue Angels, they were flying over. Yeah. I got to interview some of them on the sound stage down in the infield at Daytona. One of the things I appreciate very much, it's very near and dear to my heart, for 2 years, the people at the Speedway and Jimmy Johnson, 6-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion, has a children's charity where you come in. It's a U-shaped table of about 70 kids. They have a little kit car, wooden car, and they're starting to put it together and do the decals to make it look like Jimmy Johnson. All the while, Jimmy's on his way to the function, but I'm doing a Q&A with the kids, asking trivia and giving out product, giving out souvenirs and different novelties for whoever answers the questions right, and then Jimmy shows up. Probably, I would say, one of the things that has made me feel so good about me and what I've done is, when I've walked away from it, the people from Daytona said they really loved how you did that, how you interacted with the kids, how you tied Jimmy into it. You know, they think it's so very unique, and that just makes me very proud to be able to be a vital part of that, to be effective. Along those same lines, having worked in NASCAR, if you're at the top of the pile and you're a NASCAR driver and you're on the circuit all the time, you have to have a certain mentality. I can attest to that. I was in New York City a couple of weeks ago, and I was on a bus, but oh my gosh, I'm not cut out for that kind of an opportunity of driving. So you have to have a certain mental strength and also an attitude. Meeting some of the NASCAR drivers, have there been any that surprised you because of the way they carried themselves? Because when you get behind the wheel of that 1,500 pounds of steel and metal, and you're driving at hundreds of miles per hour, and your goal is to beat the guy next to you,
you have to have a certain mentality. So have you met any of the drivers that surprised you as far as their outlook on life or their attitude off the track?
The one thing I find with drivers, and I know when you're doing these hospitalities, you're doing it for race fans, so they want you to talk about racing. But the one thing that I found that you want to talk about something outside of racing sometimes, and the second you do, you see a gleam in their eye because you're not talking constantly about NASCAR racing.
Okay.
And that's what they like. You go to another facet of their life away from the racetrack, right, and another hobby they may have that you know about, or something that's going on in their life coming up, or something that they just did that might not be NASCAR related. They really like going there and talking about that. And that's what I enjoy, finding those niches and not just sticking with the NASCAR theme all the time.
Okay, so talk about their humanity, not just about their being a racer. And it's funny that you mentioned the gleam in their eye, because when you were just talking about the kids and working with the kids, your face changed, your whole countenance changed. So I want to talk about that some more in just a moment. I want to get some advice for you to encourage the youth or the younger people that are watching about chasing their dreams. And if you intrinsically know something about yourself, doesn't matter if your friends want to be under the grandstands playing in the dirt, but you already know something. I want to get your perspective on that for the next generation. So we'll do that in a moment as we come back with GAB with ALisa profiles, as we continue to profile Buddy Long. We'll be back in a moment. You're watching Metrocast Channel 10.
Life is a journey. Every day is a chance to do more, be more, and be better. Hi, I'm Dawn Campbell. Join me on this journey to be your best, whether you're working in a cubicle, managing a full house, or entering a new chapter of life. If you feel good, you look good, inside and out. Join me each week for Be Your Best on Metrocast Channel 10. We can do it together. Be Your Best is brought to you by Burris's Old Town Insurance, an independent agent representing Erie Insurance Group.
Hi, this is James Lepore. Do you know what St. Mary's County is buzzing about? If you don't, then tune into Metrocast Channel 10 to find out. The Buzz is a weekly entertainment program featuring artists, performers, and entertainers from the area. Find out where the hot spots for entertainment are this weekend. We've got the scoop on all the fun each week on The Buzz. The Buzz is brought to you on Metrocast Channel 10 by Birch Propane. Efficient, environmentally friendly propane. Call for details, 301-373-2131.
You're watching GAB with ALisa profiles on Metrocast Channel 10 as we profile Buddy Long, hometown boy who chased his dreams no matter what anybody else said, and is doing great things with NASCAR Racing, Motor Racing Network announcer. In the last segment, you talked about doing a special hospitality segment during one of the big races with kids. They're building cars and what have you, and you just really lit up when you talked about that. And it leads me to my next thought. I want to ask you, what was it like, or what do you think, looking back now, that kept you focused on pursuing the dream? Because you talked about going to a racetrack and you knew you wanted to be the announcer, not the race car driver, not the owner of the track. You didn't want to be under the grandstands playing with your buddies. You wanted to be an announcer. So with that in mind, looking back all those years, what do you think it is about you that kept you focused on that dream?
I think it's a lot of it's my values, my personality, the way I was raised. I come from a stock of two very good parents, wonderful people that are still here, thankfully. Dad just celebrated his 74th birthday, and
happy birthday, Mr. Long.
Mother will be older, 1 year older. Well, we're not going to say how much.
She's 29.
There you go. But it's just. It is who you know a lot of times, but that personality helps with who you know. When you continue to exude the positive.
Okay.
It's so easy to get down this day and age when you can't pursue your dream, or you have the roadblock that gets in the way. And Lord knows, even with what I'm doing right now, I'm still not completely where I want to be. Totally. There's certain other things that still need to fit in to the puzzle to make it a complete life. But I've just been very blessed, because one thing, as I mentioned, led to another, and it was who I knew. And it wasn't, hey, can you do me a favor and get this guy in? He's really good, or whatever. It's just circumstances worked in my favor. No matter which place I went, one thing always led to another. And for a while there, I was doing go-kart racing, announcing. And people think go-karts is backyard, but it's national karting. When you think of go-karters, Sam Hornish Jr., Danica Patrick, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Trevor Bain, Brian Vickers, Jamie McMurray. They all came from karting backgrounds.
Did not know that.
So I worked in Charlotte for 12 years for the World Karting Association, and we sanctioned national karting events all over the country, including races at Charlotte and Daytona. And that led me to continue to have relationships with people at those facilities and just continue to work well with them. And I think one of the things that I'm just so very proud of is I've always stayed me. I'm very trustworthy. You know, I've got the keys to Daytona. I've had all the keys to Charlotte to open up all the buildings when I go in to set up an event. And when I think about that, I'm just really proud of the fact that I earned that from a Humpy Wheeler who used to, work at Charlotte, or from the France family at Daytona. That Buddy's trustworthy enough to be able to do something like this. So, you stay grounded, stay who you are, stay true to yourself, because when you deviate, and some people wonder, well, this person always seems to take the short road and he always seems to get this opportunity. I know it's frustrating. And it seems like some people that may not be as worthy maybe get that ring, the prize ring. It comes. It may not come in the time you want. It comes in someone else's time, and you'll eventually get there.
I was trying to summarize all of the things that you just said into a nice, neat, concise list to encourage people that may be watching. So have a good support system, be honest, be trustworthy, make good relationships, and keep trying. But so I kind of did summarize that, but most of all, what you've just described is life process.
And I bounced all over the road.
No, but that's the thing, is you described what life really is. A lot of people watch television or they watch the movies and they think, oh, this person showed up and they're beautiful, so they're in the movies, or this person is, got parents that are rich, so they got this. And the reality is most of the people that you look at that are top in their field have put in a lot of time doing things that they probably would rather not have done, but they paid their dues and did their thing, and they were able to come out on the top of their field. And that, I think, is really a good summary of what you just said. So if you had a word of advice to somebody that is considering pursuing their dreams and they're not sure whether or not they should, what's your suggestion?
This day and age, the way things are is be very patient, because for some, those very few people, they'll get through there real quick. For others, it's going to take a little bit longer. The economy, when it dropped and tanked, it's hurt a lot of different things. Yeah. I've had a lot of people come to me that have worked for me, that are younger than me, that say, buddy, how can I get into MRN? The biggest problem we're having right now is when the economy slid back in 2008, a lot of things slid for MRN as well, and now by being in that elite group, there's a lot of loyalty. And that's another thing, be very loyal.
Be loyal, okay.
Not only be loyal, if you're loyal to the people you want to work for, they'll be loyal to you, usually. Hopefully they will be. I am very blessed to have a boss that's very loyal, and they're not really looking to hire outside right now so much as they're looking to take care of the people they have that have been loyal to them. So, it's a dogfight. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I still haven't, gotten everywhere I want to be. But the biggest thing I always say is enjoy 2 or 3 rungs below that top rung of the ladder. That top rung is not always what you think it is.
Right.
A lot of people have said, you should be on television. It's like, no, I know what they go through. I see that process.
Right.
I really don't want to be on network television. I like what we're doing with MRN. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to, but I've had so much fun a couple rungs down that ladder. It's been the enjoyable process.
Okay, good. Well, a couple of old school words for you: trustworthy and loyalty. Good. I think that just sums up this person we've profiled, and as you can see, this is why we have. Well, buddy, congratulations on chasing your dream, getting your dream, and just making it fun for everybody around you, and we'll be excited to watch where you go in the next 10 years.
Well, thank you.
I might even have to pick up NASCAR racing following and figure it out. That's going to do it for this episode of GAB with ALisa Profiles. We hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. You're watching Metrocast Channel 10.